We are in the final week of the regular season. There's a ton on the line for top to bottom here, all the way down playing for the 1 seed as you look at Kansas City. The ongoing situation with Buffalo and Cincinnati that we don't have a concrete update on yet. And, of course, the wild card picture and in the hunt. So we're going to get through every single scenario here. Jay, is there anything that jumps out notably, though, on the board big picture-wise as you see the graphic on the screen?
I mean, everything's just so in flux until we know what's going to happen with the AFC title game, with the resumption of Buffalo-Cincinnati. It looks like that it's not going to be resumed at this point, and so it might be a neutral site AFC title game. I will say that I think with Week 18, the key is just understanding which teams have nothing to play for. And in the 100%. AFC, there's actually no teams that have nothing to play for. It's just Tampa and New York, and the Giants in the NFC, so it's all a bit of a mess.
Steven, can we flash that graphic up one more time in terms of the current playoff picture? Because one thing jumped out at me. We flash that up real quickly, which is hilarious here. I'm guessing we can't. Okay. Oh, well.
It's coming.
It's coming. Here we go. So this is what I want to point out. Like what jumps out at me? Look, okay, so you got the 6th seed, the Ravens, that are going to start Tyler Huntley this week. And then look at in the hunt. Skylar Thompson, Kenny Pickett, Josh Dobbs.
Yeah.
That's
fighting to dethrone Mac Jones.
Right, exactly. It's man, oh man, oh man, oh man.
It's not the odds-on thing, and it's not likely to happen, but it kind of feels like Pittsburgh get in, doesn't it? Like Jets beat Skylar Thompson, Patriots lose to the Bills, and then the Steelers win as 2.5-point favorites over Cleveland.
You're looking at the Dolphins are starting a third-string quarterback, and the Titans are starting not only a third-string quarterback, but a guy that's been there for less than a month.
Yeah.
They signed Josh Dobbs off the Steelers practice squad.
Yep. It's amazing. Of those 3 teams, I think Kenny Pickett is by far the best quarterback.
I know.
I think Kenny Pickett might be good, now.
Yes.
He's been playing really well the past month.
Yeah, I think they've done a good job coaching him up, and they're playing smart, and shocker, a Mike Tomlin team is playing tough at the end of the season. You know what I mean? I agree with you. I actually think, as you sort of look at it, because of the unfortunate situation, some of the injuries with other the quarterbacks,
Steelers have a legit shot.
Yeah. Steelers have they need help, but they have a legit shot.
They were 2-6. They were 2-6 and 100-1 to make the playoffs. And now all of a sudden they just need a couple things to go their way, which are very possible. And
very
then they're
possible.
In.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Mike Tomlin fighting once again to never have a losing season in his NFL head coaching career.
I've said this before. I will say this again. The NFL needs to go back and for every year that Antonio Brown was on the Steelers, retroactively award Mike Tomlin the Coach of the Year. Yeah. Now that we know what we know, seriously, Mike Tomlin, Coach of the Year.
All right, let's start with the current 1 seed, the Kansas City Chiefs. They are 9.5-point favorites traveling here to Vegas to take on the Raiders. The over-under is set at 52.5 in this one, guys. It's simple right here. Chiefs win. They clinch the number 1 seed if Buffalo and Cincinnati does get canceled, and the latest it seems to be rumbling around is that game might not be resumed. So the Chiefs have to win this game.
Yeah, and Adam Schefter put this out there that it looks like the league is leaning towards, nothing has been officially announced, but potentially that there would be a neutral site game for the number 1 seed. Potentially the number 1 seed might get the option to choose either home field with no bye or a neutral, a bye but no but neutral site AFC Championship game. We'll see how that all plays out. But either way, the point is the Chiefs are motivated in a game with a great matchup. So I still think Jerick McKinnon is a top 20 play this week, right? It's been a little bit touchdown dependent because he's not getting a ton of run, but he is involved in the passing offense as well. They like him a lot. At least 5 catches and 50 receiving yards in 3 of his past 4 games. So even without the touchdowns, that's a usable flex. And obviously being on Kansas City, you've got a better shot than not to catch a touchdown pass. They like him a lot in that role. And then Isaiah Pacheco, I think he's a top 25 play. I think he's a viable flex against Las Vegas, who have allowed the 5th most fantasy points to opposing running backs.
Yep. One thing to note as well in this game, Patrick Mahomes needs 430 passing yards to break the all-time record, and he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who's really going to hunt that. But this pass defense is bad enough, and the matchup is favorable enough in a dome that, he could get there, certainly. But, I think that certainly Pacheco and McKinnon very viable.
Especially if it turns into a mini shootout with Jarrett Stidham.
The great
under
Jarrett
center.
Stidham.
A real question for you guys, for people that are playing still in fantasy matchups this week or even for daily, is Stidham a viable streamer considering the Kansas City secondary and what we saw from him against San Francisco last week?
He is. it's a risky one, but sometimes you're stuck. Like if you've been riding Tua and playing the kind of the matchup game, and you're sitting there like, I'm a QB 14, so he is no question a risk reward QB 2. But to your point, 52.5 over under, they're 9.5 point underdogs. In theory, they're going to throw. And then you think about the Chiefs defense that gets in a lot of these games, where teams have to throw against them. Kansas City's allowed the third most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks this year. They've allowed the most touchdown passes in the NFL as well. So, yes, anyone that's throwing to Davante Adams is potentially viable. And look, he wasn't perfect, but Stidham, I think, was a lot better than everyone expected last week against the Niners.
I think he showed that he can put up numbers. And look, I don't think that game was indicative of what he's going to be going forward, because the Niners, they did not show up for that game. The
Correct.
Defense did not show up, and they kind of admitted it. Nick Bosa said, yeah, we might not have taken him as seriously as we probably should have, but I do think just in the dome, playing from behind, to your point, Matthew, and just being able to he can chuck the ball up to Davante Adams, and Darren Waller looks a lot better, and Renfro's there. So I do think that I don't think Jarrett Stidham's very good, but I think fantasy-wise, he could absolutely put up 330 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 picks.
Yes.
Moving on to Patriots-Bills. Here's the situation for this one, guys. Right now, the Bills are favored by 7.5 points as New England will be traveling to Buffalo. The over-under is at 42.5. Buffalo playing for seeding. It is contingent on the Buffalo-Cincinnati decision, which would have a huge effect on their potential clinching of the number 1 seed. New England, of course, they need to win this game to clinch the number 7 seed, as the Dolphins and Steelers are breathing down their necks. So there is a lot at stake in this one. Obviously, the sides are on Buffalo in terms of being the favorite here, but New England has to go all out to try to hold down their playoff spot in this one.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And so I think that's, important. The problem is I just don't know, doesn't matter for fantasy purposes. I guess the only real question here is Ramondre Stevenson.
Yes.
What do we do with him? We talked about him on yesterday's show, right? The concern is, right, he had 10 touches last week, which is tied for his fewest in a healthy game this week. 4 straight games with 2 or fewer receptions. They're not using him in the passing game for whatever reason. Damian Harris came back, and as a result, Stevenson only played 57% of the snaps. So he's on the right side of a timeshare, but it's a timeshare. And so if he's not getting passing game usage, and he's not getting passing game usage, and he's in essence splitting touches, you're a little bit nervous. I'm banking on talent and banking on the fact that they might need to throw more going against the Bills. And so my expectation here is that they'll use him more in the passing game, because they don't, Damian Harris is not a pass-catching back. But to me, that's the only question on the Patriots side of the ball here.
Where is he in your rankings this week?
I'm at 19.
Okay.
I'm at running back 19. But it's like, if you start looking at the rankings, it's sort of damning with faint praise. You know what I mean? It's I didn't feel great about my running back 19 ranking.
I think the strangest thing around this game is just, are Buffalo going to play their guys? Are they going to go all out to win? And do they care really about the 2 seed versus the 3 seed enough to play everyone? And look, the line went from 9.5 to 7 because there is some uncertainty around that. But I think they're just going to play all their guys. Home game after everything that's happened. Also, if they don't play their guys, then that's basically like 2 weeks without them playing football going into the playoffs. And I mean, yeah, it's going to be an amazing atmosphere in Buffalo. And obviously it feels trivial to talk about betting around the Buffalo Bills right now and fantasy. But look, I do think they will play, and I think they'll play everyone. And you expect that, yeah.
It's an unprecedented situation, and so we just don't know how the team's going to respond.
Exactly.
And is it a like, we're so worried about 3. We're so worried about our friend and brother DeMar that we can't really focus here, or is it a like we are winning this one for him? We are, you know what I mean? Like we just don't know. And I agree with you. It is completely trivial and so ridiculous to even talk about, because it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, I feel like gut call that Buffalo plays their asses off.
My gut call is that
Bills Mafia shows up, and they always show up, but Bills Mafia shows up. I think you will see a sea of number 3s in that in the stands, and and I think they show up, and I think give me the Bills minus 7.5.
Yeah, and it's just gone down to 7 right now. So I think that my gut feel, and I think you probably feel the same way, Connor, is that this is going to be the most focused team in NFL history. on the weekend, and they're going to go all out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't even think they need that full week of practice. I think the energy that they will have, they will come out ready to roll, especially under the leadership of Josh Allen and, of course, Sean McDermott. All right, moving along in the AFC playoff picture, the Ravens travel to Cincinnati. The Bengals are 7-point favorites in this game against Tyler Huntley. Here's the situation with the Bengals right now. They are playing for seeding. They would get the number 2 seed if they win this game and Buffalo loses to New England. Baltimore, they've clinched their playoff spot. They will either be the number 3, number 5, or number 6 seed. But from a fantasy perspective, Barry, are you rolling with J.K. Dobbins in what is a really tough matchup against that Bengals front 7?
No, I'm trying not to. I mean, honestly, look, I'm at running back 35. Here's the thing about J.K. Dobbins, right? There's no passing game usage, and he's splitting carries, right? I mean, again, so 5 of the last 6 games, he's had 0 receptions. When I say no passing game usage, I mean literally 0 passing game usage. It's a tough matchup against the Bengals. As you know, literally one running back this year has scored more than 15 fantasy points against Cincinnati. They haven't allowed more than 66 rushing yards to a running back in 3 straight. In 5 straight. And so I just feel like, the other thing is like, I don't know if you guys saw this, but John Harbaugh, after last week's game, said he did not understand why the disparity between J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. J.K. Dobbins in that game against Pittsburgh dominated the touches. I think Edwards, off the top of my head, got 3 touches or something like, really small numbers. And he made a point of saying that in the press conference that, in essence, I got to talk to Greg Roman. I don't understand what happened, but we've got to get Gus more involved. So there'll be a concentrated effort to take carries away from J.K. Dobbins. So you have 2 guys that are both, not involved in the passing game. Justice Hill is their passing down back. Tough matchup against the Bengals. So Dobbins needs a touchdown to basically pay off here. Could he get you 90 rushing yards? Yes, he's done that 3 of the last 4 games. But against Cincinnati, I'm nervous about him. He's my running back 35.
Yeah, the Ravens are just the weirdest team in the league right now. It feels like they haven't really been a real team for a month now because they're just in this state of purgatory and flux until we find out is Lamar Jackson ever going to play for Baltimore again? Do we know that for sure? It's a very strange situation. But, yeah, and you don't feel good about any Raven in this matchup. Even Mark Andrews, who you're starting because he's a tight end, but you just don't know what you're going to get out of him.
Correct.
The AFC South is on the line in Week 18 here, guys. The Titans travel to Jacksonville. Jacksonville is favored by 6 points in this game. I mean, that's the situation. Winner moves on. Winner wins this division, which is hilarious. Tennessee has absolutely been beat up throughout this entire year. They are starting Josh Dobbs in this game, as most of you know. Jacksonville, while they've had this remarkable turnaround in the second half of the year, you do have to ask the question, Barry, are you ignoring last week from a fantasy perspective and fully trusting Trevor Lawrence and company against a Tennessee secondary that's been Swiss cheese this year?
1,000%. I'm all in on my Jaguars.
At home, playoffs on the line.
Never wavered the way that an Australian I know did. I will say
Hugh Jackman?
Yes. Hugh Jackman has been very, very in and out. Right.
Yeah.
And Kylie Minogue would just never set whether she liked the Jaguars or not.
She was benching Travis Etienne, actually.
But last week, you think about their previous 2 games, right? Last week they were playing the Houston Texans, a game that did not matter at all. They knew that this game against the Tennessee Titans in Week 18 is what would decide it. So they got up to a big lead. Etienne had the big touchdown, and so they just rested all their guys for, about half the game. So I think you can sort of throw that out. And then the week before was the short week game, the Thursday night game against the Jets, a very good defense, played in the rain, bad weather game in the Meadowlands. And so going against the Jacksonville going against Tennessee, right? And we talk about this. Tennessee has the best run defense in the NFL over the past month, but no team has been worse against the pass in the last 4 weeks than the Tennessee Titans. They're also 27th in scoring defense as well. So I have Lawrence as a top 5 quarterback. I have Etienne as a top 12 running back. Christian Kirk is my wide receiver 14. We talked about Zay Jones on the show yesterday. I'm at 27, right? He's a top 30 guy. I like him this week. And Evan Ingram's at tight end 7. I'm starting all my Jaguars 6-point favorites, and I think they cover and win.
Yep. I think the question is who do you start on Tennessee? And I think there's just one name, and it's Derrick Henry, and then absolutely no one else.
Yeah, I don't want a piece of, again, Josh Dobbs is a nice story and an upgrade over Malik Willis, but I don't think you feel good about Treylon Burks or,
Robert Woods.
Robert Woods or my guy Chig at tight end. I agree with you. It's Derrick Henry, and then you're moving on.
Moving down to the AFC East over here, the Jets are 1-point favorites now at Miami against the Dolphins, who will presumably be led by Skylar Thompson. Teddy Bridgewater not able to throw right now. We know Tua is out. Mike Glennon, just out of nowhere, I think he was at his kid's basketball game when he got the call.
Right, Mike Glennon.
Mike Glennon is back. Here's the situation for Miami. They need to take care of business against the Jets with the win, and they need New England to lose up in Buffalo, and then the Dolphins will be in the playoffs with the 7th seed. That doesn't sound overly complicated, guys, but the problem is they're seeing a Jets defense that took care of business easily when they knocked Teddy Bridgewater out on the first play of the game the last time they played, and Skylar Thompson, understandably a day 3 rookie, struggled. So with all of that, Barry, what are your expectations for the dynamic duo of Tirico Hill and Jalen Waddle in this game with Thompson under center?
I think they'll be okay. By the way,
yeah, people definitely can hear that.
Yeah. So the question of who let the dogs out, the answer is our production staff.
That was actually that's actually the tiger from Hangover Part 1 or Part 2. Part 1.
Listen, guys, you only saw part of the video from Zook last night. Like it got nutty. Look. I expect a better game from Skylar Thompson. Let's just start there, okay? Like, he was thrown into an impossible situation where he hadn't gotten many. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater had been expected to start that game. He gets injured on play 1, and so now this 7th-round rookie gets thrown in when he'd taken, like, the second-team reps.
Yeah.
And the week prior to that, he'd done nothing but the third-team reps because it had been Tua the whole way. And so he's been in the system longer. They knew, so he's gotten all the first-team reps this week as well. Now, it is a bad matchup with the Jets, but I think Mike McDaniel is going to do his best. Kyle Shanahan, I'm going to scheme it up. I'm going to scheme up like quick crosses and slants and manufacture touches for Jalen Waddle and Tirico Hill and try to get them on mismatches so that the quick, easy pitch-and-catch throws that get Waddle and Tirico Hill yards after the catch and just allows them to use their speed. So I just don't know how you have lowered expectations a little bit. Tirico Hill's at 8, Jalen Waddle's at 20 because of both the matchup against the Jets, who were very good, and a downgraded quarterback. But I think you're still starting both.
Yep. I think the way I think about this game is that both of these quarterbacks, Skylar Thompson and Mike White, were terrible last week. And who is more likely to bounce back? And to me, it's Mike White. And it's mainly because of the matchup. Also, I just think Mike White's better than Skylar Thompson. He's got more history. But then also, it's not just the quarterback situation for Miami. Xavier Howard didn't play last week. Teron Armstead, Bradley Chubb, they were all out. None of them practiced yesterday either. So I think that on the Jets side, guys like Garrett Wilson are going to be able to perform. And, yeah, you're starting Tirico and Waddle, but you're not feeling good about the Dolphins overall.
Yeah, if you're looking for a glimmer of hope, the Jets missed 13 tackles last week, so hopefully Mike McDaniel can scheme those touches you said to these guys. But at the end of the day, this is definitely an uphill battle for Skylar.
What's interesting, though? I mean, the Jets' run defense has kind of struggled recently as well. I mean, they're a bottom 10 run defense over the last month. And do you wonder, with Skylar Thompson, is it a heavy Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson game well? Even if it is all those things, I cannot imagine in Week 18, if you have something on the line in Week 18, clicking bench on Jalen Waddle or Tirico Hill.
You can't, and you can't because of Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel's too good. They just need one play.
Right, yeah. And both guys, all they need is one play to make the day.
Looking over at the West, the Chargers will travel to Denver. Denver right now slated as 2.5-point favorites. And we heard this is the scenario right here for the Chargers. They clinched the number 5 seed with a win or a Baltimore loss. We know the Broncos are out. And Coach Brandon Staley actually spoke about his experience with dealing with playoff implications at the end of the season.
I think it just goes back to what I said, all along about the approach is you got to take the facts on the ground as they happen in real time to make, your determinations. And so that's what we're going to do. Once we find out about that game, then we'll make the appropriate decisions moving forward and just take it case by case. And obviously, we're not going to know that till Sunday. But our approach this week is to go beat the Broncos and to play our best.
And that's the thing. It's a really weird scheduling quirk, guys. So the voice you just heard is, again, Chargers head coach Brandon Staley. And what he's talking about is, so they're the 4 o'clock game. They're in the 4 o'clock window of the Broncos-Chargers game. Ravens-Bengals play in the 1 o'clock hour. And so if the Ravens lose to Cincinnati, which is certainly possible, the Chargers are locked into the 5 seed no matter what.
Which explains the line. Broncos being favored.
Right, exactly. So that's what he's saying. why would you play your starters and risk injury? Maybe you play them for a series or two, but if the Ravens lose, which is certainly possible, obviously, against Cincinnati, why would you risk your stars to any sort of injury? Having said that, though, if the Ravens win the game, then they need to win to clinch the number 5 seed, you know.
And I think they will want that 5 seed because it's so much better playing against probably the Jags, maybe Tennessee, as it is to playing against the Bengals or the Bills. But, I mean, the way to think about this is that the Bengals are minus 300 moneyline favorites against Cincinnati's, against the Ravens. So that means that it's a 75% chance that the Chargers will have nothing to play for in that game.
And I think what I'm doing is if I have, Charger stars, I'm doing 2 things. Number 1 is in situations where it makes sense. Like, hey, hopefully you have if you have Austin Eckler, you get Josh Kelly, right? Hey, Josh Palmer, DeAndre Carter, some of these backup guys on the team, Donald Parham, if you've been rolling out Gerald Everett, et cetera, so that you can just sort of pivot to them. If they're not available in your league, it depends what other options you have. What do you got, Jay?
One thing that's random on this, DeAndre Carter and Gerald Everett, they both have contract incentives that are very reachable. So DeAndre Carter needs 2 receptions, 55 receiving yards, gets $100K each for those. Gerald Everett, 5 receptions, gets him $250,000. So that's stuff to think about when you're setting your lineups.
Especially with a player's coach. A guy like Staley is going to do his best to make sure those guys get those.
1,000%. But, it's just, you hate to go, I wouldn't use Herbert.
No.
I really think what you're talking about here is you're talking about Eckler, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen. And what I would do is, again, have a contingency plan because I think to your point, I think there's a 75% chance that those guys don't play or play meaningful snaps in the 4 o'clock game. So I would want to either, if you have a pretty good option at the 1 o'clock, I would just start that guy. You know what I mean? And say, I'm just going to bench it. But if not, if you want to wait and see, just make sure you have a very viable pivot.
Our final AFC matchup for Week 18, the Browns travel to Pittsburgh. We talked about Pittsburgh at the top of the show. They are somehow in this playoff picture and have a very legitimate chance. Here's what the Steelers need. They need to win this game, and they need both the Patriots to lose to the Bills and the Dolphins with Skylar Thompson to lose to the Jets. That's not as insane as we once would have thought with this Steelers team who has been surging right now. Barry, is Najee Harris suddenly a top 10 play with his recent stretch of success?
He is for me. I'm at running back 6 this week. It's interesting. He was looking like a huge bust at the beginning of the year fantasy-wise, but they kept grinding it out and they kept using it. And he's now had 3 straight games with 22 or more touches. They want to take the ball out of Kenny Pickett's hands. He's had 85 or more total yards in 6 of the past 8. And it's a good matchup in theory with Cleveland.
Yes.
Browns defense played better last week, but for the season, they're bottom 3 in the NFL in terms of rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, and yards per carry allowed to opposing running backs. So given the volume and the matchup, I think Harris is due for a big game.
Yeah, I only took about until week 15, but all of a sudden, Najee Harris, exactly what we expected him to be at the start of the season.
If you made it to the playoffs with Najee Harris, it all worked out for you. If you made it there. We are going to go to break. When we're back, we're doing the same thing on the NFC side of things with that NFC playoff picture.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.